Hey guys, thank you for watching my channel. Today, I read a novel. So, this novel called Man from the South. It's written by Roald Dahl. This story about one of the vacation of some guys. So this novel, is prepared for the English runner. So it's a good chance to improve our English skill. Anyway, let's read novel. Let's go. Man from the South. It was almost 6 o'clock, so I thought I'd buy a beer and go out and sit by the swimming pool and have a little evening sun. I went to the bar and got the beer and carried out outside and wandered down the garden. It was a fine garden, and there were plenty of chairs around the pool. There were white tables and huge brightly colored umbrellas, and sunburned men and women. Sitting around in bathing suits. In the pool itself, there were 3 or 4 girls and about a dozen boys, all splashing about and making a lot of noise, and throwing a large rubber ball at one another. I stood watching them. The girls were English girls from the hotel. I didn't know about the boys, but they sounded American, and I thought they were probably young sailors from the American ship which had arrived in harbor that morning. I went over and sat down under a yellow umbrella, where there were four empty seats, and I poured my beer and settled back comfortably with a cigarette. It was pleasant to sit and watch the bathers splashing about in the green water. The American sailors were getting on nicely with the English girls. They'd reached the point where they were diving under the water and pulling the girls up by their legs. Just then, I noticed a small old man walking quickly around the edge of the pool. He was beautifully dressed in a white suit and a cream-colored hat. And as he walked, he was looking at the people and the chairs. He stopped beside me and smiled. I smiled back. "Excuse me, please, but may I sit here?" "Certainly," I said. "Go ahead." He inspected the back of the chairs for safety. Then he sat down and crossed his legs. "A fine evening," he said. There are fine evenings here in Jamaica. I couldn't tell if his accent was Italian or Spanish, but I felt sure he was some sort of a South American. He was old, too. When you looked up him closely, probably around 68 or 70. Yes, I said, it was wonderful. It's wonderful here, isn't it? And who are all these? They're not hotel people. He was pointing at the bases in the pool. I think they are American sailors, I told him. Of course, they're Americans. Who else in the world is going to make as much noise as that? You're not American, no? Nope, I said, I'm not. Suddenly, one of the young sailors was standing in front of us. He was still wet from the pool, and one of the English guards was standing there with him. Are these chairs free? He said. Yes, I answered. Mind if I sit down? Go ahead. Thanks, he said. He held a towel in his hand, and when he sat down, he unlowered it and produced a packet of cigarettes and a lighter. He offered the cigarettes to the girls, but she refused. Then he offered them to me, and I took one. The old man said, "Thank you." "No, but I think I will have a cigar." He took a cigar out of his pocket. Then he produced the knife and cut the end of it. "Here, let me give you a light." The American boy held up his lighter. "That will not work in this wind." "Sure, it will work. It always works." The old man removed the cigar from his mouth, moved his head to one side, and looked at the boy. "Always?" he said slowly. "Sure. It never fails. Not with me, anyway." Well, well. So you say this famous writer never fails. Is that what you say? "Sure," the boy said. "That's right. He was about 19 or 20, with pale skin and a rather sharp nose. He was holding the lighter in his hand, ready to turn the real wheel. He said, "I promise it never fails." "One moment, please." The hand that held the cigar came up high, as if it were stopping traffic. "Now, just one moment." He heard a curious soft voice, and kept looking at the boy all the time. He smiled. "Shall we not make a real bet on whether your writer writes?" "Sure, I'll bet," the boy said. "Why not?" "You like to bet?" "Sure, I always bet." The man paused and examined his cigar, and I must say I didn't much like the way he was behaving. It seemed he was trying to embarrass the boy, and at the same time I had the feeling he was enjoying a private rare secret. He looked up again and he looked up again at the boy and said slowly, "I like to bed, too. Why don't we have a bed on this thing? A big bed." "Now wait a minute," the boy said. "I cannot go. I cannot do that, but I bet you $1. I'll even bet you 10, or whatever the money is over here." The old man waved his hand again. "Listen to me. Let's have some fun. We make a bet. Then we go up to my room here in the hotel, where there's no wind, and I bet you cannot write this famous writer of yours 10 times one after another without missing once." "I bet I can," the boy said. "All right, good. Make a bet, yes?" "Sure. I'll bet you $10. "No, no. I'm a rich man and I'm a sporting man also. Listen to me. Outside the hotel is my car. It's a very fine car, an American car from your country, Cadillac. Now, wait a minute." The boy leaned back and laughed. "I cannot offer you anything like that. This is crazy." "It's not crazy at all. You strike the writer successfully 10 times, and the Cadillac is yours. You'd like to have this Cadillac, yes?" "Sure, I'd like to have the Cadillac." The boy was still smiling. "All right, fine. We make a bet and I offer my Cadillac." "What do I offer?" The old man said. "I never ask you, my friend, to bet something that you cannot afford. You understand? So, what do I bet?" "I'll make it easy for you, yes." "Okay, you make it easy. Some small thing you can afford to give away. And if you did lose it, some small thing you can afford to give away. And if you did lose it, some small thing you can afford to give away. And if you did lose it, you would not feel too bad, right?" "Like what?" "Like perhaps the little finger on your left hand." "My what?" The boy stopped smiling. "Yes, why not? You win, you take the car. You lose, I take the finger." "I don't understand. How do you mean? You take the finger, I chop it off." "That's crazy. I think I'll just bet $10. Well, well, well," the old man said. "I do not understand. You say it right, but you will not bet. Then we forgot it, yes?" The boy sat quite still, staring at the bases in the pool. Then he remembered that he hadn't lit his cigarette. He put it between his lips, opened the lighter, and turned the wheel. It returned one with a small, steady yellow frame, and the way he held his hands meant that the wind didn't get to it at all. Could I have a ride too? I said. God, I'm sorry, I forgot you didn't have one. He stood up and came over to light my cigarette. There was a silence then, and I could see that the old man had succeeded in disturbing the boy with his ridiculous suggestion. He was sitting there very still, obviously tense. Then he started moving about in his seat and rubbing his chest and stroking the back of his neck. Finally, he placed both hands on his knees and began tapping his fingers against them. Soon he was tapping with one of his feet too. Now, just let me check, I understand, he said at last. You say we go up to your room, and if I make this right 10 times, one time after another, I win a Cadillac. If it missed just once, then I lose the little finger of my left hand. Is that right? Certainly. That is a bet. But I think you are afraid. What do we do if I lose? Do I have to hold my finger out while you chop it off? Oh no, that would be no good. And you might refuse to hold it out. What I would do is tie one of your hands to the table before we started. And I would stand there with a knife ready to chop the moment your right missed. How old is the Cadillac? How old? It is last year's, quite a new car, but I see you are not betting a man. But I see you are not a betting man. Americans never are. The boy paused for a moment, and he glanced first at the English girl, then at me. Yes, he said suddenly, I'll bet you. Good. The old man clapped his hands together. Fine, he said. We will do it now, and you, sir. He turned to me. It'd perhaps be good enough to, what do you call it, to referee. Well, I said, I think it's crazy bet. I don't like it very much. Neither do I, said the English girl. It was the first time she'd spoken. I think it's a stupid, ridiculous bet. Are you serious about cutting off this boy's finger if he loses? I said, certainly I am. Also about giving him my Cadillac if he wins. Come now. We will go to my room. Would you like to put on some clothes first? He said to the boy. No, the boy answered. I'll come like this. Then he turned to me. I'd consider it a favor if you'd come along as a referee. All right, I said. I'll come along, but I don't like the bet. You come too, he said to the girl. You come and watch." The old man led the way back through the garden to the hotel. He was excited now, and that seemed to make him walk with more energy. "Would you like to see the car first?" "It's just here." He took us to a pale green Cadillac. "There it is." "The green one, you like?" "That's a nice car," the boy said. "All right, now we will go up and see if you can win her." We all went up the stairs and into a large prison double bedroom. There was a woman dress lying across the bottom of one of the beds. "First," he said, "let's have a real drink." The drinks were on a small table in a far corner, all ready to be poured, and there was ice and plenty of glasses. He began to pour the drinks, and then he rang the bell, and a little later there was a knock at the door, and the maid came in. "Ah," he said, putting down the bottle and giving her a pound note. "You will do something for me now, please. We are going to play a little game in here, and I want you to go off and find for me too." No, 3 things. "I want some nails. I want a hammer. And I want a big knife, a butcher knife, which you can borrow from the kitchen. You can get these, yes." "A butcher knife?" The maid opened her eyes wide. "You mean a real butcher knife?" "Yes, of course. Come on now, please. You can find those things surely for me." "Yes, sir, I'll try. I'll try to get them." And she went. The old man handed around the drinks. We stood there drinking. The boy, the English girl, who watched the boy over the top of her glass all the time. The very old man with the colorless eyes standing there in his elegant white suit drinking and looking at the girl. I didn't know what to think about it all. The man seemed serious about the bed, and he seemed serious about the business of cutting off the finger. But what did we do if that boy lost? Then we'd have to rush him to hospital in the Cadillac that he hadn't won. It'd all be a stupid, unnecessary thing, in my opinion. "Before we begin," the old man said, "I will present to the referee the key of the car." He produced the key from his pocket and gave it to me. "The papers," he said, "and the insurance are in the pocket of the car." Then the maid came in again. In one hand she carried Butcher's knife, and in one other a hammer and a bag of nails. "Good. You got them all. Thank you. Now you can go." He waited until she had gone. Then he put the things on one of the beds and said, "Now, We will prepare ourselves, yes? The old man moved the real hotel writing desk away from the wall and removed the writing things. And now, he said, a chair. He picked up a chair and placed it beside the table. Now, the nails. I must put in nails. He fetched the nails and began to hammer them into the top of the table. We stood there, the boy, the girl, and I, watching the man at work. We watched him hammer 2 nails into the table, about 15 centimeters apart, allowing a small part of each one to stick up. Then he tested that they were firm with his fingers. Anyone would think that he had done this before. I told myself, he never hesitated table, nails, hammer, and knife. He knows exactly what he needs and how to arrange it. And now, he said, all we want is some string. He found some string. All right, at last we are ready. Will you please sit here at the table? He said to the boy. The boy sat down. Now place the left hand between these 2 nails. The nails are always so that I can tie your hand in place. All right, good. Now I tie your hands securely to the table, like that. He tied the string around the boy's wrist, then several times around the wide part of hand. Then he tied it tightly to the nails. When he finished it, it was impossible for the boy to pull his hand away, but he could move his fingers. Now please make a fist. All except for the little finger. You must read the little finger sticking out lying on the table. Excellent. Excellent. Now we are ready. With your right hand, you write the writer. But one moment, please. He hurried over to the bed and picked up the knife. He came back and stood beside the table with the knife in his hand. We are all ready, he said. Mr. Referee, you must say when to begin. Are you ready? I asked the boy. I am ready. Aren't you? To the old man. Quite ready, he said, and he lifted the knife up in the air and held it there about 60 centimeters above the boy's finger, ready to cut. Now, ready to cut. The boy watched it, but he didn't react and his mouth didn't move at all. He only raised his eyebrows and frowned. All right, I said. Go ahead. The boy said, will you please count around the number of times I write it? Yes, I said. I'll do that. With his thumb, he raised the top of his writers and again, with his thumb, he turned the wheel sharply. there appeared a small yellow flame. One, I called. He didn't blow the flame out. He closed the top of the lighter on it and waited for perhaps 5 seconds before opening it again. He turned the wheel very strongly, and once more there was a small flame. 2. No one else said anything. The boy kept his eyes on the lighter. The man held the knife up in the air, and he, too, was watching the lighter. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Obviously, it was one of those lighters that worked. I watched the sun closing the top down onto the flame. Then a pause. Then the sun rising the top once more. The sound did everything. I took a breath, ready to say 8. The sun turned the wheel. The real flame appeared. So now the bed was started. So yeah, so it's really cruel bed. So I don't like such kind of crazy nonsense and unfair activity. So I hate the old guy. Yeah. So, but now the boy write 7 times. So if he can light a lighter 3 times more, he can get a Cadillac. But not, if not, he'll lose his finger. It's unfair. It's cruel. Why they do it? Why they do this kind of bed? Yeah, if I were the boy, I don't accept it. Yeah. And the old guy had some experience of this kind of bed. So because he really get used to prepare for it. Yeah. So 3 more times to write the lighter. Yeah. Let's go. The real flame appeared. 8, I said. And as I said it, the door opened. We all turned away. We all turned, and we saw a woman standing in the doorway. A small black-haired woman, rather old, who stood there for about 2 seconds, then rushed forward shouting, "Carlos! Carlos!" She grabbed his wrist, took the knife from him, threw it on the bed, took hold of the man by his jacket and began shaking him with great strength, talking to him fast and loud and fiercely, all the time in some Spanish-sounding language. She pulled the old man across the room and pushed him on backwards onto one of the beds. "I am sorry," the woman said. "I am so terribly sorry that this should happen." She spoke almost perfect English. "It is too bad," she went on. "I suppose it is really my fault. For 10 minutes I left him alone to go and have my hair washed, and I come back and he is doing it again." The boy was untying his hand from the table. The English girl and I stood there and said nothing. "He is a danger to others," the woman said. "Where we live at home, he has taken altogether 47 fingers from different people, and he has lost even 11 cards. In the end, they threatened to put him away somewhere. That's why I brought him up there." "We are only having a little bit," whispered the old man. "I suppose he bet you a car," the woman said. "Yes," the boy answered, "a Cadillac." "He has no car, it's mine. And that makes it worse," she said. "He has bet you when he had nothing to bet with." "I am ashamed and very sorry about it all." She seemed a very nice woman. "Well," I said, "then here's the key to your car." I put it on the table. "We were only having a little bit," whispered the old man again. "He hasn't anything left to bet with," the woman said. "He hasn't a thing in the world. Not a thing. In fact, I myself won it all from him a long time ago. It was hard work, but I won it all in the end." She looked up at the boy and she smiled. A slow, sad smile, and she came over and put out a hand to take the key from the table. I can see it now, the hands of hers. It had only one finger in it, and the thumb. That's all. So, how was it? So, it was really cool story, but yeah. Finally, the woman helped the boy. So, is it happy end? Well, yeah, it's kind of really how can I say? So, yeah, I feel mixed emotion after reading. So there are no winner in this novel, in this story. But finally, the boy doesn't need to cut his fingers. That's good. So, who is the woman? Is he his wife or just a victim? Yeah, that's crazy. So, and the old man earned around 50 fingers. That's too cruel. Are there any priests or how priests doesn't work? That's so crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so I read the novel. It's published by Pearson. So this is Pearson English Readers. It's for the English learner. If we read this book, so it helps improving our English skill. I'd like to do this again. Anyway, so thank you for watching or thank you for listening to my channel. So I'd like to see you again. So じゃあまたね。See you next time. Goodbye.